What's up guys, it is Chris back with another watch video. Today we are talking about NTH and the Amphion. This is their vintage gilt, and I've been wearing it over the last few weeks and I'm doing a quick review today. So I'm going to go through some of the specs, then I'll talk about what I like, what I don't like, what I think is just okay. I'll talk about price, we'll do a lume shot, and then we'll talk about accuracy. So getting right into it, specs. Very nice specs on this watch, and it's definitely one of the things I like about this watch. 40 millimeters across, 48 millimeters lug to lug, 11.5 millimeters thick, 300 meters water resistance. Of course, you have a screw down crown, screwed in case back, stainless steel bezel insert on this, which is PVD coated, a gilt relief dial, which is absolutely beautiful, a very thin stainless steel bracelet. The whole watch is stainless steel, of course, stainless steel construction, case, crown, bezel, bracelet, and the buckle, of course, are all stainless steel 316L. 140 grams on the bracelet and 20 millimeters in lug width. As I mentioned, you get a 120 click bezel, and inside we have the Miyota caliber 9015, a movement that I think is a very good movement if you're looking for a thin watch. Of course, 11.5 millimeters, that's how you do it. And then there is a no date version. This one has a date at 6 o'clock. There is a no date version. That one gets the 90S5. So the bezel, very nice bezel action. We'll hear that now. So we have a lumed bezel, a lumed dial, of course, lumed hands, and we also get a lume crown. So there's a lot of lume on this watch, so stay tuned for the lume shot. It is incredible. Of course, you have screwed in links on the bracelet. You have plenty of micro adjust, milled end links, and you get drilled lugs, which of course is always a nice thing. So what do I like about this watch? As I mentioned, the dial. The dial is a gilt relief. Essentially how they do that, you start out with a plate for a dial, and that plate is gold plated essentially, and then on top of that is the relief of the black that you see here. So it's a layered dial, and everything that you see here that is gold is actually really peeking through the printed on black portion of the dial, and then lume is applied on top of that. So there's a layering process to it. All of the wording that you see on the dial, the logo at 12 o'clock, that is all a relief. That actually is not printed on, it's actually coming through that black portion of the dial, so it's layered. It's a very interesting way of making a gilt dial. It's something that's no longer being done. It actually was something that Rolex did in the past, and they no longer do it. And of course, this is a homage to Rolex, to Tudor, so it makes sense that they would go back and figure out a way of doing something like Rolex used to do. And Rolex stopped doing it because it's actually a pretty expensive process, but you can get it with an NTH, which is actually a pretty cool idea. Also, what I like about this watch, I really like the crown. The crown actually has a pretty cool crown guard system. When you unscrew the crown, you can see this crown actually has a little area that screws into the case. There is sort of a relief in the case that adds extra protection. You don't need crown guards, so it's sort of like a technology that allows this watch to not have crown guards. Very nice, actually. And I mean, you know, technically you don't need crown guards at all, and you can just screw in the crown, but they went the extra mile to make it a little bit safer for you to wear a watch like this, a 300-meter dive watch, without having crown guards. I really love that it's 11.5 millimeters thick. That is a very, very nice thing, especially for a 300-meter dive watch. Really thin bracelet on here. I like that. I'll throw it on my wrist really quick so you can see. It fits amazing because of those dimensions and how thin the bracelet is and how thin the actual case is. But really quickly, wristwatch check. Today I am wearing the About Vintage 1926 Diver. So this is a new release from the brand. It's very, very cool. Also gets a Miyota movement. We will do a full unboxing of that and a full review, of course, in the coming days. But throwing the Amphion on. So like I said, this has a Miyota movement, a 90-15, and of course, that allows this watch to be very, very thin. You know, there are other watches that I have had on the channel that have a 90-15 in it and aren't as thin as this, and maybe don't even have 300 meters water resistance, probably 200 meters water resistant. So that is definitely one of the reasons why this watch costs a little bit more than others. And of course, that gilt relief dial. So you can see on my wrist, I have a 7.5-inch wrist. This is a 40mm watch. That 48mm lug to lug is really, really tight as well. So this wears like a 40mm watch, maybe even a little bit smaller, maybe like a 39mm, more closer to its size than many other watches, because it sits close to the wrist and it just fits very, very nicely. The fit and finish on the watch in general is very nice, especially on the bracelet. The bracelet itself is obviously an oyster bracelet, but the links are almost oval in shape. They're not polished, but they're brushed on both sides. However, they are tapered on either side and rounded, so they are very, very comfortable on the wrist. Doesn't pull your hair. Very, very nice. It feels very nice. Just a very nice feeling bracelet in general. A lot of bracelets that you get from micro brands, they will polish one side or brush one side, and then the other side of the bracelet is essentially flat, and there might be a little bit of sharp edge or something like that. None of that here. Just very nicely finished, and there's some chamfered edges on the case itself. Really sharp integration between the brushing and the polishing. Very, very nicely done, and it feels very nice in your hands. So what I don't like about this watch, so just a couple of nitpicks, I would say. Since the bracelet is so thin, you don't have a lot of screw head here to unscrew links. The screws are very, very small, so it's hard to unscrew them if you don't have the right screwdriver. If you have the right screwdriver, it's pretty much as easy as any other bracelet that has a screwed-in link. However, a lot of bracelets out there aren't this small, and you can see it is pretty small. Actually, significantly smaller than most. So either you have to have someone take it out, or you have to get a specific screwdriver to get the link out for this. It's not hard at all, and there's plenty of micro adjust, so you would only have to do it once, unless you gain tons of weight or lose tons of weight. What else I don't like about the watch, or I think is just okay, is the bezel insert. I would have preferred a ceramic bezel insert. I think at this price point, you could have put a ceramic bezel in this watch, and it wouldn't have cost that much more. The stainless steel bezel is nice, and I get the point of it. It almost looks like ceramic anyway, but anyway, I mean, that's sort of a nitpick. And then last, there is obviously you have a sapphire crystal. It has anti-reflective coating. I have just noticed that it is, as you could see as I move it around, you could see a lot of the lights in my studio here. It does reflect a good amount. Not incredibly bad. I believe it's on the underside and on the top side. It's very clear, the anti-reflective coating, so you don't see it. You don't see any blue haze or purple haze on the dial, on the glass itself. But other than that, there's really not much to dislike about this watch. The last thing I would say is the clasp. It's pretty generic. I see a lot of watches from micro brands with clasps like this. I think the clasp is very nice, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. Obviously, it's fully milled, and it feels very good. I just feel that the bracelet and the case are a little step above most of the other micro brands that you get, and then the bracelet sort of is on par. So it could be a little bit nicer, but I think it's just you know, nitpick again. I think it's a really nice bracelet, and a really nice bracelet, excuse me, and a very nice clasp. So finally, I'll talk about price. $675 for this watch. It's a little bit more expensive than some of the other NTH offerings, but not incredibly more expensive. I think it's like $25 more than your standard dial on an NTH. And I think it's worth it for this dial. There's a lot of error that goes into making these dials, so there's a large percentage of error in making these. So you know, it's nice to have a gilt dial. I love a gilt dial, especially if you're gonna have a vintage diver like this, something that looks vintage and is a homage to some awesome watches. Obviously, the gilt dial makes sense and it looks really good. You have the gilt hands on here. It looks really good. Definitely spring for the extra money if you can get the extra, if you like the gilt dial. If not, NTH make plenty of watches. They make plenty of versions of watches. And there's a whole bunch of different names on their website. If you go look at their website, there's a whole bunch of different watches out there that they make, and they are all different colorways. They all look great. Definitely check out their website. Obviously, I'll put a link in the description below for you guys to check out if you want to check out some of their watches. So accuracy, very quickly. This I've gotten over a few days, and I've been wearing it, or I've had it on a winder, and I've gotten plus 8 seconds a day on average. So it was a little bit more and a little bit less on certain days, depending on where I was wearing it or if it was in one of my winders. So that's been over about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and I've probably did about 6 or 7 tests using an app that I use to test these watches. So a very, very intriguing watch, really a very nice watch to wear. It's very comfortable. It's like a perfect everyday watch if you're looking for something that is rugged, nicely finished, and just a generally good looking watch. It's a very handsome watch. Obviously, it's a really good option. Anyway, I'll do a quick lume shot just so you guys can see this lume again on here. I'm gonna do 2-stage lume shot. I'll try and keep it as quickly as possible. I'm gonna do twilight and then complete darkness. So here it is in a low light situation. You could see this is pretty bright, especially on that bezel. There's a lot of lume thickly applied to that bezel, and especially the indices. The crown is lumed as well, which is a very nice touch. Just a lot of lume on this watch. So I'm going to do complete darkness really quick and we will wrap it up. I would say this is a complete dark situation. However, the lume on this is pretty much lighting up the entire room. There is a lot of lume on this dial. It's pretty significant. The only thing I would say is that the date is not lumed. Maybe that would have been an option on this watch. It would have probably added a little bit more lume there at 6 o'clock. It would have looked pretty incredible. But I mean, in general, this is very, very bright. You can see the crown there. The bezel is extremely bright. Anyway, if you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel. Also, please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is WatchChrisBlog. Please add a comment below. Tell me what you think of this watch. I will add a link to their website. So if you want to check them out, definitely check out the link in the description and it will take you to their website. Also, I have a bunch of links in the description. Those links are to watches. If you click on those links, I am compensated slightly by Amazon. It does not affect your Prime benefits in any way or cost you anything extra, and it helps support the channel. So if you can, please use those links. Anyway, thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.